Hello guys, welcome back to another tutorial. My name is Blessing, and in this video I'll be showing you how I made this beautiful snatched waist jumpsuit. If that sounds like what you'd like to learn, let's go right into the video. So this is the fabric that we're going to be using. It's a crepe fabric and you'll be needing 3.5 to 4 yards of fabric. Okay, so I'll be using this place as my starting point, and I'll be starting by measuring 3 inches all the way from the beginning of the pattern paper to the end. Okay, this is just so I'll have space to do my crotch extension in the course of the tutorial. Okay, so having done that, the next thing we want to do now is to mark out our horizontal measurement, starting with our nipple point or your bust point. For me, this is 11 inches. I'm going to mark that and I'll connect the points together. After that, we are going to go ahead and measure our waistline. You go ahead to measure your waistline. For me, my waistline is 17 inches. Okay, so I'm going to mark out the point as well, and I will connect the points together. Alright, so the next line we are going to be working on is the under bust. Okay, so for me, my under bust from my waistline is 14 inches. Then I'll go ahead and label the lines that we have already, just so we are not confused. Okay, so here I have my bust line and my waistline. Then now I'm going to measure out my under bust measurement. That's from your shoulder to your under bust. That's under the breast. Okay, so for me it is 14 inches. So this is our line for the under bust. Okay, so next thing we want to do now is to mark out our shoulder measurement. My shoulder to shoulder is 15 inches on fold is 7.5. Then for the sleeve extension, I want to mark out 12 inches. Okay, so that is the mark over there. Then my neck width of 3.5. Okay, then the neck depth of 7 inches. So all this totally depends on your preference, but this is fine for an average size. Okay, so I marked out a V neckline, which is totally your choice. You can make it a round neckline. Okay, so next thing we want to do now is to mark out our crotch line, and to do this is your hip divided by 4 plus 3 inches. I take that again, your hip divided by 4, whatever you get, you add 3 inches to it. Okay, well, so whatever figure you get, you're going to mark that from your waistline. Okay, so for me it was 10.25 plus 3 inches, that's 13.25. So I'll mark 13.25 from my waistline. I hope you understand this. Okay, from my waist. Okay, that's 13.25, which is perfectly okay. And I also think you can also add 2 inches to whatever you have after dividing your hip divided by 4. That can work as well. Okay, so you can add 2 or 3 inches to whatever you have. So that is our crotch line. So from our waist again, we are going to go ahead to measure our hip line. So my hip line from my waist is 8.5, and that is where I have just marked. 8.5 from the waist is my hip line. So that's the hip line. Alright, so the next thing I want to do now is to take our body measurement, and starting from the bust line, I'm going to be dividing my bust by 4, and I'll be adding 6 inches extra. Okay, so at the course of the tutorial, you'll be knowing the reason why we are adding extra 6 inches. Okay, so my waistline, my under bust line, I'm also going to divide by 4. Whatever I have, I'll mark it. Okay, which is 32 inches divided by 4. Then I added 6 inches extra. Then on the waistline, I will do the same. Okay, so now I'm going to join the lines together like so. All right, so to get our sleeve, to complete the sleeve that we have drafted, I'm going to come down by the round sleeve, which is 7 inch, that's 14, and 14 is 7, but I'm going to be adding 1 inch, which is 8, for ease and also because of our shoulder slant. So I'm going to connect that to where we have our sleeve extension, then I'll connect the underarm like so. Okay, so this is our sleeve part. Then on the shoulder line, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for our shoulder slant, which I'm going to be connecting to the neckline. All right, so after connecting to the neckline, you can see we have our 7 inches there for our round sleeve. So I'm going to come to my hip and divide my hip by 4, which is 10.5. Then I'll add extra 6 inches as well. Okay. Alright, so I'll connect the hip to the waistline like so. Then whatever I have on my hip line, I'll do the same to the crotch line, starting from that line that I marked out already. So for our crotch extension, and to get this, we are going to divide our hip divided by 12 minus 0.75. I'll write that on the screen so you can understand better. Okay, whatever you have, you are going to mark it over there. Then from that part, we are going to be connecting it to the hip line like so with a curve. Okay, we have our 2.5. For me it is 2.6 rather, 2.6. Okay, then I connected to the hip line like so. So you will discover that the pattern paper is not as long as the length. My length is 59 and I have about 36 inches of the pattern paper. So by the time I'm going to be cutting on fabric, I'm going to be extending by 23 inches, okay, to give me the full length of to give me my proper full length of 59. So whatever I have on the crotch line down to the crotch extension, I'm going to mark at the end of the pattern paper. Okay, so that is what I'm going to be extending with down to the length of the jumpsuit. Okay, whatever I have at the end of the paper is what I'm going to extend with by 23 inches downward and by the width of whatever I have at the end of the pattern paper. So this is basically ready. So the next thing we want to do now is to cut out the pattern before we trace out the parts where we are going to be having our snatched waist on the pattern paper. Okay, note guys, this can actually be done directly on the fabric. Okay, but for the sake of clarity and proper understanding, that is why we are doing this on pattern paper first. All right, so I'm just going to label again so that we don't mix up our lines. Okay, so from the under bust, I'm going to be coming down by 6 inches from the under bust. Okay, I'm going to mark 6 inches and I'm going to rule a line to serve as a guide as where we are going to be starting and ending our waist dart. Okay, so we are going to be measuring now between the under bust and that 6 inches. So now I'm going to be marking out 2 inches. Okay, at interval I'm going to be marking out 2 inches. Don't forget we added 6 inches extra. I'm going to tell you how the 6 inches is going to come out from what we are marking. All right, so I'm going to mark 2 inches at interval. Okay, so I'll do the same by extending this point to the 6 inches line that we have. All right, so guys, if you have watched to this extent and you're yet to subscribe, please kindly do, because you're going to be learning a lot in this channel. And if you're a returning subscriber, I sincerely do appreciate you and I thank you for always coming back. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. So guys, so the beginning part I'm going to shade out. That is where we are not going to sew. That part that is empty is going to be sewn as a dart. This other part will be left and this shaded part So we have three parts now that are, so those three parts, when you combine the two inches together, gives us the 6 inches that we added as extra. Okay, so each of the parts that are not shaded are going to be sewn as that. The parts that are shaded are going to be left. Okay, by the time we do this on the fabric, you are going to understand better. So right now to the back piece. Okay, so this is basically all that we need to do for the front piece. So I'm going to be placing this pattern, the front piece, on another pattern paper so that it will serve as a guide for us to mark out or draft out the back piece. Okay, so after placing, I'm going to be extending the center front line upward like this to serve as a guide for us for the center back, and I'm going to be ensuring we have the same neck width. Then for the neck depth, I'm going to be coming down by 1.5 inches. I beg your pardon. Okay, so I'm going to be connecting the neckline like so. All right, so after that, I'll go ahead and do my crotch extension for the back, okay, using the same figure we got for the front. So our crotch extension for the back will start from where the front piece stops. I hope you understand that. So from the hip line, I'm going to be adding 1 inch all the way to the top, which is going to serve as our zipper allowance. Okay, so I'm going to connect these points together. Alright, so after connecting the points together from the crotch extension for the back, we are going to connect with a curve like this to meet up with the hip point or the hip line to form our crotch extension for the back. Okay, so for that part, I'm going to be measuring 2 inches from the front pattern paper, and I will connect to the crotch line like so. Alright, so at the waistline for the center back, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch, okay, to create a zipper curve, just so to avoid a zipper bulge. Okay, we want to eliminate zipper bulge by going in by 1/2 inch on the center back through the waistline. I hope you understand that. That will help our zipper to relax properly. Okay, so I'm going to be using my tracing wheel to transfer these lines to the pattern paper for the back. Okay, this will just help us to have a straight line, and we can get exactly what we have from the front piece. Okay, so I extended the neckline to the center back, which is the zipper line. So I'll go ahead now to cut. This is basically what this is basically the little alteration we have for the back piece. So I'm going to cut every other part exactly the way we have it on the front pattern. Alright, if there's any part of this video that you don't understand, please let me know in the comment section. I'll give you a proper explanation again. Okay, so I'll remove the front pattern, and I'll use my ruler to rule out the lines that has been traced out on the pattern paper. Okay, so I'll go ahead and shade the parts that are not going to be sewn on the fabric. Don't forget we have a zipper line at that side. Okay, so all the shaded parts are not going to be sewn. They're going to be left the way they are. Alright, so this is basically what we have. This is the front and this is the back. Okay, don't forget, by the time we want to transfer on our fabric, we are going to be extending the length. Okay, we are going to be extending the length, and every other part of the pattern paper we are going to be adding 1/2 inch sewing allowance. Okay, so now I am done transferring to the fabric, and this is what we have. This is the back piece. which I have added my allowance while cutting. You can see all the half an inch sewing allowance over there. Okay, so that is the length which has been extended using the same measurement we have at the end of the pattern paper. Okay, all right, so for the front piece, this is what we have as well. For the front piece, all our allowances have been added just like I explained earlier. Then for the length as well, our 22 inches has been added to it as the length with the same width we have at the end of the pattern paper. So I'm going to go ahead now and remove all the pins that were used to hold the pattern paper to the fabric, so that we can go ahead with our sewing proper. So for this center front, I'm going to be cutting a facing for the neckline. Okay, I'm going to be cutting a facing for the neckline, and I'm going to join the center front together down to the crotch with our half an inch sewing allowance. Okay, then for the back piece, I'm going to be using a bias tape for the neckline. Okay, this is totally optional. You can decide to use a bias tape for the front and the back, or facing for the front and the back. So this is our facing that has been sewn for the front, and the center front has also been joined together. You can see how it looks at the point of this video. At the point of shooting this video, there was no light, so I couldn't iron down with our hemming gum to hold the neckline. Alright, so this is the back piece, and I'm going ahead to sew the neckline with our bias tape. So I'll be putting the other part of the back together so that we can go ahead and sew the center back. Alright, so we're going to be doing that firstly by attaching the zipper to it. Okay, we'll add our zipper, then we are going to sew whatever that is remaining down to the crotch line. Okay, so after doing that, this is what we have for the center back, or for the back piece. So let's go right into the main business of this tutorial. Alright, so please pay good attention to this part we are about to do now. Just like I have illustrated on the pattern paper. Okay, so I'm going to measure. You know, I don't like flying thread. That is what I just did by cutting out flying thread. Okay, so from our shoulder, I'm going to be measuring our underbust. Okay, so my underbust is 14, so I'm marking out 14.5 because of our shoulder joining. Okay, so I'll mark out that line straight like so. Then I'll come down by 6 inches. Okay, by 6 inches. I did a little alteration at the end of this tutorial. I'll let you know what I did. Okay, so now from the center back, I'll mark my 2 inches. Don't forget, the first 2 inches that was shaded on the pattern paper will not be sewn. Okay, so that is it. Then we'll mark another 2 inches that we are going to sew. Okay, so from that point, we'll pick the center. Okay, matching the 2 points together. The point we are not going to sew and the point we are going to sew, you match them together to form 1 inch on both sides as our dart. You know, it is 2 inches, so it will be 1 inch on both sides by the time you fold. So from that point where your pin stays, you mark out 2 inches again. These are the points we are not going to sew. Then you mark another point where we are going to sew. I hope you understand now, judging from the pattern paper. Okay, so you pin down as well. You pin down on both sides, ensuring the 2 points align. Okay, so from that point again, we have three that, because we have three parts that won't be sewn on the pattern, because it was 6 inches we had it, so that part will not be sewn. Then we'll mark out another 2 inches that is going to be sewn. Okay, so you pin down again, ensuring the points are aligned to give us our perfect 2 inches, just so it doesn't hurt our body measurement. So this is how you pick it, then you pin down. So after pinning, we are going to go ahead to the sewing machine to sew just from that line, the line where we marked as our underbust, to that 6 inches line that we marked. We are going to sew. So after sewing, this is what we have. This is how the wrong side looks, and this is how the right side should look like. Note, you are not sewing a normal dart that you're going to start very tiny, then increase, and no. We are going to sew just by our 1 inch that we picked. That is part of the style line. So this I have done to the front and to the other side of the back. So I pin down, I will take it to the sewing machine and sew as well. So after sewing, this is what we have for the back piece completely. Okay, look, this is already coming out beautiful. And this is what we have for the front piece. Okay, all right, so I'm going to be joining these two together. So I place the front piece, then I'll be placing the right piece on it with the back piece on it with the right side facing each other. Then I'm going to pin down the neckline or the shoulder line so that we can go ahead and sew all other parts that needs to be sewn. Okay, so this I'm going to be doing to the other shoulder. I'm going to pin down from the neckline down to our sleeve area. Alright, so after pinning down, we're going to go ahead to sew with our 1/2 inch from the neckline, okay, down to the sleeve area. Then after that, we are going to turn the hem of the sleeve, then from the sleeve area down to the armhole, down to the side. Okay, when you get to your waist area, you stop, come down by about 7 inches open for our pocket. Okay, then I'll continue my sewing down to the hem of the trouser. Okay, after doing that to the both sides, this is what we have. This is already looking good, guys. You can see how beautiful, and it's an easy tutorial. Okay, that's the armhole and that's the sleeve opening. So this is the part that was left out that I'm going to be attaching the pocket. Okay, so the next thing we want to do now is to join the inner part of the trouser or the jumpsuit, and I'm going to be aligning the front and the back like this, ensuring that the joining align. Then I'm going to be starting my sewing from that center part. Okay, this ensures that you have a proper joining. It's okay to have excess. You can always trim off any excess fabric. So I'm going to start from that center and sew, then I'll come back to the middle and sew again to the other leg of the jumpsuit. After that, I'm going to be using this fabric to attach the pocket. I already have a lot of tutorials on how to attach pockets, okay, so I don't want to do too much of repetition on that. So this is what we have after sewing the inner part of the jumpsuit. All right, then we have our pocket sewn already. So the next thing we want to do now is to finish the hem of the trouser. All right, so after doing that, our jumpsuit is ready. Okay, so this was my first fitting, and I reduced this dart up by 1 inch. So I discovered that it was kind of too long for me, so I think 5 inches will be okay. that was the alteration I said I'm going to explain to you. You can see how the zipper is slipping on the back. Wow, this is how it should be, guys, by the time you sew your own. Okay, so like I was trying to explain, the dart, please make it 5 inches. I think 5 inches is okay. That's from your under bust, you measure 5 inches downward for the dart. I hope you have learned something new today. Please don't forget to give this video a giant thumbs up, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.